The cabin buzzed with the usual pre-flight chatter when an unexpected silence rippled through the rows. A little black girl, no older than 10, stood trembling near the front of the aircraft, her crutches leaning gently against the seat beside her. Then, without warning, the flight attendant snatched the crutches and, to everyone's horror, threw them off the plane, right onto the tarmac. Gasps filled the air. The girl's mother shouted in disbelief, clutching her daughter, who was now struggling to stand. Passengers looked around, stunned, waiting for anyone, to intervene. The attendant's face showed no remorse, only cold irritation. "She's a safety hazard," she snapped. But before anyone could process the cruelty, the cockpit door opened and the pilot stepped out. No one could have predicted what he'd do next, but what happened left every single person on that plane in tears. Her name was Amara, just 10 years old, with bright, determined eyes and tiny braids tied with purple beads that clicked softly when she moved. Born with a rare neuromuscular condition, she had relied on crutches most of her life, not just to walk, but to explore, to play, to live like any other child her age. Despite countless hospital visits and surgeries, Amara never lost her spark. Her mother often said, "She walks with more courage than most people ever stand with." This flight was special. It was taking them to a children's hospital in Boston, where a new procedure promised a real shot at walking without crutches someday. Amara had practiced getting up the plane steps herself, proud of her independence. She even smiled when boarding, hopeful and excited. She had no idea her strength was about to be tested in a way she never expected. The trouble began the moment Amara reached the boarding gate. She was moving slowly but steadily, her mother holding their carry-on while Amara carefully navigated each step with her crutches. Most passengers offered smiles or stepped aside respectfully, but one flight attendant watched with a visible scowl. As Amara stepped onto the plane, the woman sighed loudly and muttered, "This is going to slow everything down." Amara heard it. So did her mother. Trying to ignore the sting of the comment, they moved toward their assigned seats. But the energy had shifted. The attendant's eyes lingered with judgment, her tone clipped and cold as she directed others around them. Something about her demeanor said this wasn't going to be just another flight, it was the start of something far more hostile. As Amara settled into her seat, gently placing her crutches beside her, the flight attendant walked by and paused with a look of disapproval. "You can't leave those there," she barked, pointing at the crutches. "They'll block the aisle. It's a safety risk." Amara looked up timidly. "I need them close." "I can't walk without them," she said softly. The attendant rolled her eyes. Well, maybe someone should have booked wheelchair assistance instead of expecting special treatment. A few heads turned, sensing the tension. Amara's mother leaned forward, trying to reason with the woman. She's a child. She's not asking for special treatment, just a little compassion. But the attendant wasn't listening. With a forced smile and fake professionalism, she turned and walked off, leaving behind an atmosphere thick with discomfort and a mother who now felt the need to protect her daughter not just from disability, but from cruelty. Moments before takeoff, the same flight attendant returned, her expression tight with irritation. Without asking, she reached down, grabbed Amara's crutches, and began tugging them away. Amara yelped, clutching one handle. "Please, I need them," she cried. Her mother stood up quickly, voice trembling with anger. "You have no right to take those. She can't walk without them." The attendant snapped back. "FAA policy says no obstructions in the aisle. These are a hazard. Either they go in checked baggage or you're off the flight." Before they could respond, she stormed toward the front of the plane, crutches in hand, and with a swift motion, threw them out of the aircraft door onto the tarmac. The plane went dead silent. Amara's mouth fell open in shock. Tears welled in her eyes. Her mother screamed in disbelief. Around them, passengers stared in stunned horror, unsure what to say, unsure if they should get involved. Just as the weight of the silence became unbearable, the cockpit door creaked open. The pilot, a tall man in his late 50s with silver at his temples and calm eyes, stepped out and looked around. "What's going on?" he asked, his voice firm but calm. No one spoke at first. until Amara's mother, shaking with emotion, said, "Your flight attendant just threw my daughter's crutches off the plane." The pilot's gaze dropped to Amara, who sat trembling, her legs curled up, eyes wide with fear. He took a deep breath, scanning the faces of nearby passengers, then turned to the flight attendant who stood defiantly near the galley. Without saying a word, he walked past her, off the aircraft. Passengers whispered anxiously. No one knew where he was going or what he was about to do. 2 minutes passed, then 5. The hum of whispers filled the cabin. Just as unease started to settle deeper, the pilot returned, holding Amara's crutches in his hands. His jaw was clenched, and his eyes glistened, not with anger, but something far more powerful, empathy. He walked straight down the aisle and gently placed the crutches beside Amara. Kneeling to her eye level, he said softly, no one takes your dignity away while I'm in charge." The cabin was silent, stunned. Then, standing tall, he turned to the crew and said, "This aircraft isn't going anywhere until the flight attendant who did this is removed." Gasps echoed. The flight attendant stammered, protesting, but it was too late. The pilot had made his choice, not just as a captain, but as a human being. And the passengers? They erupted in applause. As the gate staff escorted the flight attendant off the plane, the pilot remained by Amara's side for a moment longer. His voice dropped gently as he said, "My daughter used crutches too, after a car accident when she was 9. The cabin grew quiet again, the weight of his words sinking in. "She always told me the world didn't need to make her feel different. It already did. It just needed to be kind." He pulled something from his pocket, a small, faded bracelet made of rainbow-colored beads. "She made this for me before her final surgery. I wear it every flight to remind me to see people, not just passengers." He placed it softly in Amara's hand. "Now, I want you to carry that reminder for both of us." Amara clutched it tightly, tears falling freely down her cheeks. Within minutes, airport security arrived at the aircraft. The flight attendant, now visibly flustered, was escorted off without a word from the passengers, just a long, collective silence that said more than outrage ever could. As she disappeared down the jet bridge, Amara's crutches now safely beside her, a flight supervisor stepped on board and apologized publicly to the family. The pilot resumed his position, but not before checking once more on Amara. "Comfortable now?" he asked with a smile. She nodded. And this time, when the cabin door closed, the atmosphere was no longer cold or tense, but filled with quiet respect. As the plane soared into the sky, Amara sat, gazing out the window, the bracelet still wrapped tightly around her small fingers. She turned to her mother and whispered, "Why was he so kind?" Her mother smiled gently, brushing a curl from her cheek. "Because he remembered how to see people, not just problems." Amara leaned back, a soft smile on her face, no longer feeling like just a passenger, but someone who mattered. For the first time in a long while, she felt proud of her crutches, not ashamed, not different, just strong and visible. Disability doesn't diminish a person's worth. Ignorance does. What Amara endured was more than just an act of cruelty. It was a reflection of how easily kindness can be replaced by judgment. But one person's courage to stand up can restore dignity, inspire change, and remind us all what humanity should look like. If you've ever witnessed injustice, ask yourself, did you speak up? Because sometimes all it takes is one voice to shift an entire room. If this story touched your heart, don't let it stop here. Share it with someone who needs to be reminded of the power of standing up. Comment below, what would you have done if you were on that flight? And don't forget to subscribe for more real stories that reveal truth, spark change, and restore faith in humanity.